I consider myself the Kelly Lynch of comedy. Kind of indie, a little bit of a buzz in the early 90s. Still hanging in there. Still, really?
Colin Quinn's still here. Yeah.
I need a Mitch. Thank you.
Yeah.
I need a Mitch Glazer in my life.
You do. Mitch knows everybody there is to know, too. He's one of those guys.
I don't know him.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He knows everybody. Nobody knows him. He's one of those guys.
Yeah. Well, you know, the last time I saw you and I were on our heels doing the Chip Chipperson show.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to respond.
Oh, Jesus. It's such a, juggernaut in many ways. It's a psychological juggernaut, but it's, it's infuriating in many ways and, hilarious in others.
But I am always, do I tell him he's wrong? Do I go with the bit? What is the bit?
Right.
Yeah. I don't really feel like Jim is very generous in his, if I was doing Chip maybe 5 minutes before and I'd say, hey, listen, you're this guy and I'm this guy.
Right.
No. Just, whatever you say, Chip negates it. Right. I guess in his mind, that's how it should be.
But I'm always wondering, is the show started?
Right.
Because only Chip is there.
Right.
You only meet Chip.
Right.
There's no Jim. Jim's not in the studio.
All right. But do you get to talk to Jim beforehand?
No.
No.
Just Chip.
It's Chip.
Yeah.
The minute you walk in.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no, it's really such a part of him.
Yeah.
That, you might want to explore how deeply it really is a part of him.
And then you spend 5 minutes with Chip before the show starts, but he's just telling you how he's nailing chicks and he's cool.
That's pretty cool.
You know what I mean? Like you're not discussing what to do with the
Just
show.
Do you feel like you can't ask questions about where things are going?
I've attempted.
And it doesn't work?
No, it doesn't work. Yeah. Just Chip slaps you back down.
Yeah, no, Chip is it's a very, it's the ultimate method character. My hope is that one day he just crosses over and can't find his way back.
That would be the best.
That would be the ultimate justice for that bastard.
Just every once in a while, in the middle of Chip talking to you, you just hear, help me. You know what I mean?
No.
I can't get out of here. Dude, Colin, write this up. This might be that indie breakthrough that we're looking
Chip
for.
Chipperson story?
Yeah, but with Norton trapped inside.
Yeah, we get like, Elijah Wood, maybe?
That's good.
That always works.
He needs a hit.
Yeah.
And he likes that kind of eclectic stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's like they're like odd but interesting.
Right.
David Lynchian.
Yeah.
Is where they go with that.
Yeah.
So what has been happening with you, Colin? I mean, you don't have a one-man play going now. So
no, I've been trying to make a one-man play, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing it as stand-up now because I tried to force it into thematic things, but it's all the jokes work, but every time I do the thematic part, I can see people are just kind of like, okay, the jokes, and then the jokes come in there. So I said, let me just do stand-up, and maybe it'll come from that way. Maybe I'll reverse the process.
Right.
What
was the theme that you were looking for?
Systems. The themes I was looking for was systems, because, I think about democracy and how it's a flawed system, and how every system came with the best of intention to organize people, you know what I mean? Even fascism. It's still trying to control according to certain people, like this is going to work, and organize things based on other systems. Yeah. So I had a whole logical flow to it. But then I just threw it out because even though it made sense, and I was like, oh, it makes sense. Like why the Romans followed the Greeks, like what they were trying to prevent, and why the Holy Roman Empire followed Rome. And I was like, oh, it all makes sense to me, but nobody gave a shit.
Well, I saw you do that at the Fat Black Pussycat.
Right, that's what I was trying to work it out.
And it's so funny and so smart.
Thanks. But I'm leaving out the smart part for now.
Okay.
Yeah. But you said
I'm retiring the smart parts.
But yeah, you said that he was even bringing up Norton then. You were laughing about the airline stuff.
Yeah, about how he was driving you crazy about asking when he should leave for a flight.
Yeah, no, Norton was. I would get mad because Norton would like, he thinks I'm his smartphone. His smartphone's in front of him, and he's like, "What time should I leave for the airport tomorrow?" That kind of stuff. I do that to. I have stuff about Nick, stuff about Bobby.
Yeah.
And one time, I was mad at Bobby for something. I go, I'm such a good friend, and you're so happy that you actually just. And he looks at me, and nothing could have said I was so mad. And he goes, That's why you're acting so funny, because your friends are pieces of shit. And I just laughed because a lot of my act is about people I know doing certain things.
That is funny, though, but when you guys are arguing, we don't know whether you're arguing or riffing. That you guys have been together all for so long.
We don't know either sometimes.
Yeah. And then you find out somebody's feelings are hurt from a roast.
Oh, really? Yeah. Was somebody's feelings hurt from the last roast?
No. Everybody was the Voss roast. Everybody was happy with.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the point to me. It's like I have never been of the school of like, hey, we're comedians. Guess what? Things offend me. Things hurt my feelings. I'm still a human being. Sorry.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean obviously I live by the sword, you die by the sword. I don't feel like I have a right to say you did. But I mean, I'm still pissed off when people cut too close to the quick about me personally, or like something's offensive to me, like a certain type of joke. I'm like, that's offensive. It's not like we're just these people who are like, hey man, it's all art. It's like, it is all art, but guess what? I still can be human and I still have my little touchy feelings.
But yeah, when comics say like, we talk this way because we love each other and we don't know another, I'm like, work on that.
Yeah.
Work on expressing, hey dude, I love you. You're great guys. I'm glad that we're friends.
Proud of you.
You don't have to just always make fun of them.
Well, that's where I think I disagree with you. Nobody wants, you don't think the world has enough empathy and fake false compassion at this time?
Why does it gotta be false?
All right, but even real compassion, where everybody's like, hey, we don't need another one of those moments of like, hey man, I really care about you. Everybody does that. The whole society's done it for 20 years. It's like a cultural thing. I think you need people to like, when I was growing up, my friend used to do this thing that we would all do when we were all hanging out, and he just reminded me of it a few years ago. Harry O'Reilly's actually a very funny guy, but where we would say something like, I gotta be drunk, we're hanging out, and we go, I really feel bad about breaking up with my girlfriend, and your friend would go like this. You can't see it on the radio, unfortunately. He goes, and I think you need more of that in society sometimes.
Well, the other night, there was a 10-year-old kid who's battling back from cancer, and he was at the Jets scrimmage, and he ran for a touchdown, and 10 years old. And I have inside sources right now telling me that that it's cheating, that the defense did not try to tackle him, and the offense knew it was going to happen. So this story is breaking now, but remember you heard it here. But that thing when the first guys did that, it was the sweetest thing ever. You know what I mean? When they let a kid score. And now everyone has to do it, even at high school games. And you're like, you want everybody to see you as a nice person rather than being a nice person.
Right. Yeah. That's a big part of it too. And like I said, sincerity, there's a lot of sincerity, a lot of false sincerity that goes on in the world because it's cheap to go on and just utter platitudes and bromides and,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good that stand-up's supposed to be kind of like, all right, I'm full of shit and you're full of shit. I don't like stand-up that just says you're full of shit. I like it when you say, I'm full of shit.
I'm full of shit too.
You're full of shit.
Yeah. But the difference between you, and now I'm going to give you some kind of respect that maybe doesn't make you uncomfortable,
it won't
is
make
that we see you struggling to change and kind of grow all the time in your stand-up.
Yeah, stand-up, of course I'm trying.
But you're trying, but what about off?
Well, I mean, it's just a natural product of whatever pain, you know what I mean? When you have to confront, like my worst nightmare was having to confront myself in my life. Like, that's not what my plan was.
Right.
My plan, when I was a young kid, was to live like, you ever see In Like Flint?
Yes.
My plan was to be like this guy In Like Flint. Ladies, before your time, but he was James Coburn or somebody, and he was just living on yachts, like smoking, drinking, partying, girls, and like, I was like, that'd be a great life. I remember being a little kid going, that's the life I want. But then, you end up, I mean, I quit drinking before I came into stand-up. And just by the act of quitting drinking, and staying that way, I've had to confront a lot of ugly truths about myself. And, I never, like I said, it wasn't really what I was intending at all. I didn't want that. That's not what I want. It's not what show business is supposed to be.
No,
that's what it is.
That's not fun at all. But here's the worst thing I think about quitting drinking, because when I gave up drinking and drugs, I thought those were the problems. I'm like, I'm a really great guy, but I drink too much and I take drugs.
Me too.
So when that was, so when I got off that and I go, okay, I guess that's a symptom that,
that's right.
But I'm really a bad, selfish, fucking person.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this really, I could use a drink right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And you either go two ways. Either you become rigid and just go, okay, and just clench your jaw, or you say, okay, I got to obviously confront all these flaws in my personality and really look at it, and the more you look at it, at least the more I look at my stuff, just the more like I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, disgusting.
The levels of subtle ego, the levels of subtle selfishness. It's very,
Well, that's when you find yourself, you're having a conversation with people. You go, well, what I'm trying to explain to you is I'm not a good friend. You've picked someone. Maybe this is a character flaw for you. You've picked a terrible person.
I'm not going to give you what you need.
Depend on. I'm incapable. Right. I'm incapable.
But it's not that you're incapable. Yeah. It's just that.
You're right.
I wish I was incapable.
Yes, that would be
Because that's a cop out.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, that's what I used to be like. Hey, I can't be in a relationship. But then you're like, no, I choose not to be. Because of my own, and that's another level.
Yeah, I would rather watch TV than be here for you.
Right.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
But it is true.
Well, it's very, but it's kind of, dealing with that is good. I mean, it's good in artistically too. Not to bring it once again back to a selfish motive, but it does help you. Like, you don't want to I just don't want to, like, on my deathbed, be like, oh shit, I missed. I mean, you're going to miss whatever you're going to miss anyway, in the big picture. But I don't want to be like, I missed that whole point of myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try to find, but I think, I'm willing to examine everything else in life more than myself. It's like the last thing on my list I ever want to get to.
And then, and there's the other problem is examining yourself to the point where that's a narcissistic activity too.
Yeah.
And suddenly all you're doing is thinking, hey, I had a fascinating thought. And meanwhile, some like old lady's falling down and you're like, excuse me for a second. I just was thinking of something. You're just stepping over her body, and, that kind of stuff too.
I think even people I know who got interested in therapy and like went to school for it were also people who like probably could have been examined themselves, but
only damaged people becomes therapists.
Why is that?
Well, because it's an interest right from the beginning.
Right.
Like, how does this work?
Yeah.
But also I feel like therapists are like prison guards in the sense that they absorb so much negativity and evil in the world they live in. Like, they have to deal with everybody coming in with all day the narcissism and just the anger and the trauma, that it's sort of like can't help but affect you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't imagine, like you say, prison guard, that you come home from work and you're like, honey, how's work? Well, one guy wouldn't stop screaming and he was just gashing at himself with a glass. So it was a bad day.
I saw 2 rapes. I saw 3 assaults. I mean, I mean, how could it not affect you? I mean, how could you not absorb some of that?
Right.
And if it doesn't, then you're a sociopath. Like, if you're the kind of person who picked that job because those things don't affect you.
You're like, just a typical day. It's boring. You don't want to hear about it. Yeah.
But a sociopath, they say you can't be like a CEO of a company without being a sociopath. That you got to be able to say, I'm going to lay off 1,000 people so that me and 3 other guys get bonuses. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's success.
Right. Yeah, no, I could see that being true.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, even anyone who's truly driven, they're kind of nuts. Like somebody, even if it's like a creative field or whatever, if they're like, I am the best at that thing. Right. That's why I need to keep pushing for that thing. And you're like, oh, you're crazy. All you think about is
to be good at anything. You have to miss out on a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't be part of a lot of life.
Right. That's true. Like, but then, what is a lot of life? Then a lot of other people are like, hey, guess what? A lot of life is, is the stuff. Is just the basic stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, whenever somebody says miss out on a lot of life, all I think about is a jet ski or, it's like, that's not what life is. It's not a vacation. I always think, oh, you're missing out on a camping trip or something. Not that I would ever want to go camping, but I'm just saying. It's always a leisure activity.
Yeah.
It's always me pulling a boat in my station wagon away from some suburban house.
This is it. This is what we work for.
Come on, kids.
We're going to Cape Hatteras. Like, some people love a place that you've never been to and they bring it up all the time. You're like, why is that your spot? Yeah. Why are you constantly going to that place? But travel, everyone makes a big deal about. But when you travel, do you go and see the towns that you're in, or you just worry about your
no. Yeah. I mean, it depends how long I'm there. But I mean, I don't know. Like, if like I like to walk around just because I'm from New York. So I'm always like, walk. But in most cities, you can't walk. So then, like, I went to Columbus, Ohio, a couple of months ago, and I went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
I just went there to visit it. Plus, my ex-girlfriend from a long time ago went to Ohio State, so I was looking back, like, and then I was like, and I went to Ohio State, but, just then it becomes just this creepy guy on the campus of Ohio State by himself with no motive. And it's like basically walking up to people going, where are the freshman dorms? Like you have to modify your behavior when you're alone.
But it is true, too, that a lot of the towns you travel to are going to end up being university towns, too, right? Because just theaters, like I saw you were down in Austin.
Yeah.
You were there, it seems like if there's going to be a theater, there's going to be a school.
Well, but I mean, this was a comedy club.
Yeah.
This was the Funny Bone, Columbus Funny Bone. So, I mean, but a lot of theaters, it's so funny, they have these beautiful theaters, but sometimes the school doesn't. Like if you do a college gig, for example,
right.
A lot of people hate college gigs because for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons when I used to do them back in the in the early '90s was because they always put you in the gym, and I was like, why don't you put us in these beautiful theaters?
Right.
But they don't own the school.
Right.
I forget what it was, but it was some weird rule. So you end up in a horrible gym or a cafeteria doing stand up instead of in a beautiful theater. There was
Yeah.
I know that doesn't answer your question whatsoever.
It does.
It just changes the subject to something that bothered me in 1991. I finally got it off my chest.
Well, that's done.
The contract law involved with most universities, they really do have one flaw. And I think people should look into it.
Politicians are afraid to step into this. It's such a dicey spot.
They're like, what? It takes them like 2 hours. Like they start thinking about something else. Like, well, explain to me again what his complaint was. Why? It's the theater, so the school don't. No, they own the theater. Oh, all right.
You brought up Nick DiPaolo, and you and him.
I did.
Yes, earlier.
I did.
Yeah, I just wanted to get off of theater contract.
Listen to me.
Major universities.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick DiPaolo.
No, I was just saying that you, like, from the outside, it wouldn't seem like you guys have a lot in common.
Right. But we're we're old friends here.
You're old friends. What kind of brought you guys together?
I mean, in the 90s, it was actually, we became close in LA. We were both living like 2 doors away from each other, and we're both trying to work on our acts. We had the same manager, so we'd go to this place at night and just start riffing back and forth. And just the references were so fun. I mean, he's just, he's got that stroke of, he's the only guy I've ever seen. This was in like 2002. We did a Guantanamo Bay thing for, the troops. And then, it was me, him, Patrice, like 12 people and, cynical comedians. And he's the only comedian I've ever seen that literally had, even guys like Patrice who, they don't want to give it up and they don't laugh out loud. He had people in a van, like 12 people, but doubled over for days. Because he's just, he speaks in punchlines. It's just the way he is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's amazingly funny guy.
Yeah. He goes, he's the only guy on his radio show now. Like, he's trying to build a thing. Guy calls him Nick. You're the greatest, blah, 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 I love you so much. And then makes a little, like, witty joke. Nick. He's like, yeah. Hey, save it for open mic night, okay? Click. Hey, listen, when you call up, don't try to do your 5 minutes stand up for me. Just say what you want to say and move along. I'll be funny, okay? Relax. He can't stop himself.
Yeah. That is so funny. But that's the thing that you forget when you move into this job. You're supposed to be warm, like, oh, I want to spend time with that person every day. Not fear him or be afraid to call the show.
Yeah. And this was like his first couple of weeks. And the guy's like, Nick, I love your show. Thank you. And there's just a little joke at the end. Hey, just turns immediately.
But when you were putting together Tough Crowd, he was like high on your list, right? He was.
Yes. Yeah. Well, him and Patrice, these guys all brought certain things. But Nick, I'll say, what Norton brought was like brutal honesty, just bare naked honesty. What Nick and Patrice brought was no outward charm, just telling you that they're funny, and they're bringing no warm, no way like, hey, I like this guy, I want to laugh at him. They're just going, no, you're laughing at me because I'm funny, because I'm not bringing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And both of them, by the way, horribly offended when I used to tell them that.
Right.
Like, I was like, what do you guys think? You like charm city? You know what I mean? And Patrice actually had a little bit of shit. Nick, forget. But they were both these brutal, just warriors, just couldn't help but be like, Like people had to laugh even though they wanted to hate him. You know what I mean? And
yeah, but that was by the way, Nick's last special that he did was so damn funny, and most of it you could see that was just written in his living room chair because it was stuff he saw on TV, sporting events, commercials, infomercials, the news, and I'm just like his wife has to sit and just hear him yelling from the other room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that was the funny thing. And I remember when I brought you in to do that show, I went back and watched a lot of Tough Crowd. And it was hard for me to believe that there was a time that this show was on the air. It was so brutal and fast.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And even then it was considered a little offensive to most people in power. The average person kind of seemed to enjoy it, but, you know, a lot of people a lot of important people didn't seem to appreciate it. As we found out. Yeah.
Did you try to smooth it over in any way? I mean, was there even a...
No, I don't know what my problem was. You know, I mean, I wasn't very politically savvy. I was just like, in the long run, the honesty and that kind of stuff just kind of bleeds through. This is comedy. People say they want real. Like, and it's so funny because I was just thinking about this in the shower the other day. God knows why, and I was like, I remember reading an article that really stuck out to me before I even got in show business. It was Jack Nicholson, and they go, "Do you have any regrets?" And it was like, you know, he's the rebel of show business, like 1981 or something. They're already asking him to, and he goes, "My only regret is being really honest in all my interviews because people don't want honesty." And I was honest, and that was my biggest, that's the only thing I would take back.
Yeah.
And I was like, what a strange thing to say. But in a way with Tough Crowd, there would have been a way to do it and still not, you know what I mean? And still be a little more savvy, you know, about what happens, you know, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, look, I certainly wouldn't have changed it, and like I said, I would have been, you know, if I told those, I remember dealing with Comedy Central at one point, they go, look, we don't want you talking about politics anymore because, you know, this show deals with politics, Jon Stewart, and we don't want you talking about race because Chappelle deals with race. I go, first of all, you only need one show to deal with politics and race. I go, but second of all, I go, what do you want me to talk about? They go, well, like pop culture. I go, so you want me to walk in tomorrow, see Nick DiPaolo scowling over there, Patrice O'Neill, the imperious, you know, whatever, the reigning king of whatever he thought he was reigning king of, Shirley, all these people, and go, hey guys, let's talk about what's going on with, you know, the Kardashians, whoever it was.
Yeah, right.
This was before the Kardashians, but whoever it was at that time. I mean, you know, it was very strange. So it was brutal sometimes. Like there was things in it, like I said, there's things in there that offend me. Too bad. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
If you're trying to be real and funny and off the top of your head, which a lot of the show was supposed to be spontaneous, to see how funny people are off the top of your head. That was another subplot of it. Right. You know?
I love those type of personalities too. You're like, let's talk about something that isn't overdone. Pop culture. There's something that people don't discuss. I'm like,
no one gets mad at you if you don't like a Kardashian or if you do.
Paris
but if you say, I like Donald Trump or I don't like Donald Trump, half the fucking audience is furious.
Yeah.
Not like curious of why you do or, you know what I mean? They're just angry.
Well, no, now it's 10 times worse, of course. But but even then, it was just started then where people were just very contentious and very divided, you know?
Yeah. Well, the end of the Clinton years, we said, okay, the Democrats and Republicans aren't ever going to be friends again.
That's right.
And we haven't since. We have not had a thing where people could sit down and say, you know, well, we want America to do well.
No, it's terrible. I mean, a two-party system sucks anyway. I mean, really, I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. But I mean, it's really strange how strident and how, you know, how rigid people really are. I mean, if you vacillate from the viewpoint of one thing, whatever your party supposedly, whoever belongs to the party is insane anyway. But if you vacillate from any point that people like, well, see, that's where, and it's like, what? So you're telling me, coincidentally, all of you people agree on 50 points. What an amazing, how could that be?
Well, that's what's
really weird.
The funny thing is like, if you talk to people who are right wing and then you bring up abortion, they'll go like, I don't give a fuck about abortion. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
But they won't, you know, no one says that.
New York Republicans.
But a lot, and there's a lot of Democrats who are like, I got a fucking gun. What do I give a shit?
Right.
I'm going to probably shoot somebody. If I get the opportunity, if they come into my house, I'll shoot them.
Yes.
You know?
But this country's finished. I mean, that's what, when Dale saw the show, I'm talking about the Civil War, and I mean, this country's definitely going to break up. I can't imagine, there's no other way. It's not going to stay this way.
It does not feel as if the United States is staying together, or,
That's right.
or whether it's the best thing. This is like one of those things that you hear about in a marriage where you know it's going to be better for the young people.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And you still, let's suppose you, let's just say Texas or California breaks off. We're not going to hate them. They're not going to become our enemy, but we're just not going to have to live with them every day.
They don't have to stay together for the kids.
I really think, to me, I think we should even invest money to see if Texas can do it on their own, because that's the one state. They already have a government. They've been a country before. I think they could pull it off.
Right.
And then again, you want to share an army or whatever? We can do that, but it can't be every fucking thing that we all have to agree on.
Right. But it won't be one state. It'll be like sections.
So you think like New England will break off on their own? Because some of these sections they can't make it.
Like who?
I'm going to say the Mid-South is not. They're never going to have the kind of money it takes to be a country. I don't want to fucking say anything about Mississippi.
But you'd be surprised when you throw somebody, on their own, you throw them in the water, they learn how to swim.
So you think they're going to make it? Like if Florida broke off, Florida would make it.
Sure they would. Florida would.
Because Nicaragua exists.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
You're not
going to
be like a great country.
Just to stop, Mississippi could be like a great, because of the Gulf, and they could be like a great transshipment point.
Okay. Why aren't they now?
For
we stopping them?
For drugs and, no, I'm talking about illegal.
Yeah, illegal drugs.
Because once you're off on your own, you're like, hey, guess what? We got to survive.
Right.
And they're like, we don't have to. And everybody's like, well, what about the laws? They're like, the laws of the country we're no longer part of? Yeah, all right. Let's
it's nice.
Our new law is we ship,
Yeah.
Look how rich is the Cayman Islands,
Yeah.
I always wonder if the Cayman Islands, how rich they are. Because everybody uses them, but I feel like they're not rich down there.
Well, you don't meet anybody with that background, like a Cayman Island.
A Cayman, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Cayman. Jen, you're a Trinidadian, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, my dad grew up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and my mom's family's from Trinidad.
Okay. But you don't know anybody from the Cayman. Your dad doesn't
go
to school with somebody that used to be in the Caymans.
No, I don't know anyone.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. And they make a lot of money running bank things because they're saying, we don't give a fuck where your money comes from. We'll help you launder it.
What, the Caymans? Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of it's literally what you said that Mississippi could turn around and do, is come up with something, even if it's, football gambling, whatever. You can end up making a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. You got to find something that just suits your whole state, ecologically and psychologically.
Well, let's take a look at the United States. If it breaks up, how many countries do you think it'll be?
I mean, I've been trying to talk about this in my show, but I would say, you start out with like an SEC, a Big Ten.
That would be great.
You know what I mean? You break it up into football divisions, college football divisions, and then from there, I would say there's probably like 12. Well, here's the problem: is a lot of red state. Like you take Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
it's a blue city in a red state.
Yeah.
So now, what are you going to do with that?
Almost when we say red states and blue states, it is city people and country people. Yeah. Like Dallas votes blue. You know what I mean? Right. Houston is blue.
You told me that I never thought that was true. I didn't realize that Dallas was that way.
The biggest city that voted for Donald Trump is Mesa, California. No, Mesa, Arizona. Mesa, Arizona. And that's not a very large city.
But even within, here's why I don't feel like even this could work, this plan. Yeah. Because every election, every 4 years, is 49-51, basically.
Right.
So that's a problem. And that's not just all. So even if he wins every big city, he doesn't sweep every big city.
Right.
There's still a 30-40%.
Yeah, you're right. There's still plenty of the people.
This can only end with a purifying bloodshed.
Yes. But is there a happy country? Is it just like...
No.
I mean, like, we always were like, oh, they're happy in Denmark, but I don't know.
But Denmark's it's like a half a state. It means nothing.
Yeah, it's saying they're happy in Delaware.
Exactly. No, there's no such thing. It's been bloodshed since day one.
Right.
I was watching this documentary called Game of Thrones, and but that show is kind of interesting in that the point, which by the way I started watching because they had some deeper point. Not that deep, but it's beautiful. But I mean, basically it's like there's always been war, and it's just like people just fight. It's really amazing,
Well, we're at the age now that you can start and go, oh, life is much shorter than I thought it was going to be when you're in your 20s. But we've never caught on to, hey, the dumbest thing you can do is get in a gunfight when you're young and lose the 3 or 4 decades that you might have after that. That, by the way, isn't all that great anyway. You know?
That's a good point.
And two
good points.
We will never get it through our minds that there's who gives a fuck what happens.
Well, there's no way for young people to have that perspective ever.
Yeah.
Like they're just still living for that.
Yeah, when you're 19. I mean, I literally, my girlfriend when I was 19, Mike Tyson wasn't even around there. But if she had said, this guy's really harassing me, I would have gone right up to Mike Tyson and said, hey, she told you, leave her alone.
Yeah, right.
And I would have gotten beaten to death. But I'm saying I would have had no qualms about doing that.
Right.
Like when you're 19, your emotions are dirt. You know what I mean? So people, fuck with you. You're like, that's it. Let's go.
Yeah. And then you're also you're not like physically afraid of ruining your life, but also like, I don't know. I feel like you don't feel shame or embarrassment, like all that kind of stuff where you're like, oh my God, people will look at me like I'm an idiot.
Right.
That none of that happens.
That's when you take the pride of like, I'm like the idiot of our gang. I'm like the nut. I will shit in a bucket and put it on my head.
Right.
Like I got that going for me. Yeah. That's my brand right
That's how everyone knows me. It's pretty cool.
I don't know if we can fix it then, Colin. I don't know if anything can be fixed.
But nobody's ever fixed it.
There was no time in the world where we're like, this is the good times. Like the golden age of Pericles. Not that good.
No. I mean, there was still a lot of, a lot of wars and a lot of slaves and a lot of everything, what I mean? Somebody's got to, I always quote that line because I loved it. This guy, Jack Simmons, he was a comedian. Yeah. Still around somewhere. But he used to do a joke about something years ago and the whole crowd moaned. He goes, come on, folks, it's comedy. Somebody's got to get hurt. And that's so true about comedy, but it's true about the world. Somebody's got to pay the price.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's been.
Well, that's the thing now, too. In this country, it's based on how well you do. And I think this is why we have Trump, is people do think about winning and losing. And we were sold that as a young thing. But it does mean to have capitalism, somebody's going to be in the dark bottom, just like somebody's going to be in the highest point.
But that's communism too.
Yeah.
And socialism. I mean, there's no system that's worked where that hasn't happened.
Right.
There's human nature, so you know what I mean?
There's always going to be in human nature that guy isn't doing shit. I'm not giving him, no matter what we agreed to.
Right.
You're not doing shit. And there's no such thing of everyone act like we're all going to do well. And then some people are like, no, I don't really care that much about it. You know?
Right. That's right.
And then we just change what that position is. Like if it's race or a caste system or whatever, like it depends on, the circumstance. But there will always be the person who are like, we want it to be fair for everyone, but these guys, not so much.
Yeah.
I remember even being in Little League that you would say to some of the kids, would you fuck it? We're trying to win here.
Right.
And they would be like, I don't care. The whole thing is dumb. I'm like, I know it's dumb.
Right.
I know it's dumb, but I want to win this.
I know. They don't care. In some ways, they're healthier people.
Yes,
like,
they are.
I'm out here playing a game. I'm playing fun, play a game.
Right.
And then you're like, no, we're going to win. Yeah.
But I remember in the movie North Dallas 40, and I never fucking forget this, a great football movie. And, Nick Nolte's partying and he's enjoying life. And because he knows it's stupid to be a football player. But the coach said to him, seeing through the game and winning the game are two different things, right? And it is true. Like if you really just want to act like I'm just going to enjoy life, you're not going to have a name of your name on the top of a building. The way Trump does. Right. Trump just sees everything in numbers and winning. We have to win. And that's why he got to where he is. He's obsessed with it,
Yeah.
The American dream is almost an obsession. But, Chris, you don't do plugs anymore? It's like...
Colin Quinn's in studio. Go to colinquinn.com for all of Colin's dates and on Twitter.
Brother.
I am Colin Quinn.
What a depressing promo I have.
Yeah, it was.
You know your career's on the downswing when they're promoting your website. Colin Quinn. Like nobody would figure, hey, I wonder if this guy has a colinquinn.com. I'm really finished in this business. I did nothing to deserve it, in my opinion, but I'm sure all people feel that way about themselves.
We're doing...
This guy's sitting in jail for serial murder going, I did nothing to allow... I don't know how this happened. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. No one's ever like, well, they deserve to catch me.
Well,
I got to wait for I had a good
no,
run.
actually, there were a couple of guys that go, "You caught me, believe me, it's the best thing ever." Even Ted Bundy, I think, was like, you should kill me." He's like,
There was Son of Sam is 40 years right now this summer, right? And he said, when they picked him up, he goes, "What took you so long?"
Right.
One of the great lines, like, "I'm not that good at this."
Yeah.
Just when they showed up.
When they showed up, he goes, "What took you so long?"
Yeah, they should have said, "Hey, guess what? You come in one crime every 2 months." In a giant city. One was in Queens, one's in Brooklyn, two's in the Bronx. Sorry.
They got caught on their heels. They didn't know
there's a crime wave in New York in the 70s. Sorry we didn't, catch you, stupid.
But that goes to show you.
That parking ticket. That was a good one.
And I was like, wasn't just his MO brown hair?
Yes.
I was like, that's pretty,
brown hair.
that's vague.
Kind of chunky.
Well, actually, they did sort of have because a friend of mine who looked a little in that similar look, they stopped him.
Right.
So by the end, they knew the certain look. They knew it was curly brown hair. My friend looked like him. They stopped him.
But even with all the crime that was happening in the 70s, the people got quiet doing that and stayed in because that's a scarier kind of shark in the water.
Yes.
Like you can understand, like, somebody wants dope or they want money, but somebody who just wants to go around and shoot people
that are making out in cars.
Yeah, even then that was crazy. Even then people went, "Oh, this is nuts."
I knew a couple of one girl I knew the sister, one of the girls that got killed, and then another guy who had a plate in his head. We worked with my cousin for a while. And they
So a city this big, and you had two connections.
Yeah, to Son of Sam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And remember, there was big rumors. He's going out to the Hamptons. That was the big rumor. Right before they caught him. Because the Hamptons, those days, everybody just swing. Hey, let's go to the Hamptons weekend. That was like the Hamptons was just becoming like a thing.
Right, yeah. It was like Mick Jagger's out there. I'm going out to the Hamptons.
Right. And there was all the bridge and tunnel people they detested coming out on the weekends. Hey, 6 people to a house. It's on the same.
We wanted to talk to you because we're doing a special on one of the guys from your show, Tough Crowd, and that's Greg Giraldo, who was great comic. And part of this is about just keeping some of that work thought about by people.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. Actually, a guy's writing a book about him. I'm reading it right now, and I'm supposed to do the forward, which means I was supposed to do the forward like a month and a half ago. I got busy. But anyway, so I mean, Greg was the guy. Greg was sort of like the nicest hybrid of what Tough Crowd was. You know what I mean? In the ideal sense, in that he was so funny, but he was informed, but he tried to see, like, he was kind of like, he could go either way. Like, you couldn't tell what his political leaning was because he would just go back and forth all the time, like a normal human being would. If our society was not just this, back in red and blue Republican, he was kind of like, he'd go in and out each day,
But he was educated, but also a street guy. Right?
Yeah, so he grew up poor in Queens. I think his father's like, he was a Colombian immigrant. I think he was like a busboy or something. He worked in a restaurant. And then Greg was like he got into Regis High School, which is this elite Catholic high school in New York that, you have to get these great grades. It's like the Harvard of Catholic schools. And then he got into Columbia. I mean, he got into Harvard itself and then Columbia Law School. So he was like a brilliant guy, yeah.
And what was it that he fulfilled for you on that show? What did he bring that you didn't have without him?
He brought like that the fact that he was always prepared. You know what I mean? He actually had the big famous fight with Dennis Leary because Dennis Leary was accusing him of being prepared. But that was Greg. He just went to, you don't go to Regis, Harvard, and Columbia by going, I'll wing it when I get in the test today, And he always brought the middle. I don't want to say the middle ground because it sounds like it's not funny in the middle, but he would be ironically, kind of cynically, attacking both sides and whatever he said. So he'd be saying something, he'd be mocking what he was talking about, but then it would be an almost sarcastic undertones. He was making fun of everything,
That piece with him and Leary was so funny to me because you saw how quickly it went from being a comedy show to two guys on the corner.
Yes.
Like it literally came close to being physical.
Yeah, no, it looked like a fight. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, man, because, and Leary takes a lot of grief for that one. And I'm not denying the grief he takes. I'm just saying that the one thing that nobody realizes is that we were reshooting it even says in the show, glad we reshot this. And afterwards I go, I'll cut that if you want. He goes, no, leave it. It's good TV.
Yeah.
So at least Leary left it up.
And it was good TV. And Leary was I think that people would side with Greg because he was the underdog.
That's
but
right.
They were both like, a dog looking in the mirror. I mean, you could see that those guys are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, exactly. They were both fuming mad. And I think it was that Dennis, I don't think Dennis understood what Greg, like I said, Greg was being sarcastic. And Dennis didn't realize so whatever he said about North Korea, I forget what the line was. And then Leary's like, oh, yeah, right. And then Greg's like, yeah, you didn't get it. I was being sorry. And then it was just ugly.
Yeah. And he'd stepped on him, like Jordan was going somewhere, he stepped on him. And that was the whole thing. But that tough crowd had that all the time, right? I mean, that was always on the outline that this thing could become less than fun.
Sure. I mean, a lot of times it was ugly,
Yeah.
But that was the whole point. I was trying to make it like, oh, everybody likes real. Like, I wanted to keep it authentic, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying not to make it so that, like, people would try to write jokes, but only, like, they get the topics like an hour early. So a lot of it was improv, and I wanted it to be, like, authentic. So it's not always laughs, or it's not always going to be laughs. Sometimes it got serious, I was trying to make it, like, moment in the moment.
Well, one of the things I think people thought when they watched that show is that you guys were all friends together and moved in a pack, but a lot of those people were just people that you admired and brought together. Right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there were a lot of people that knew each other because the cellar was the main thing, but a lot of people came in, and it wasn't always fair to people coming in because they're like, Jesus, I got to walk into these people who all know each other, like, each other's rhythms. So, but I mean, it was, yeah, I mean, it was a noble attempt. Let's put it that way.
Well, to bring up this thing about keeping Greg's content alive a little bit, why do you think that is with comedy, where people won't forget the Doors, but take any comedians from that era and they're more or less forgotten today?
Well, I never thought about that until you phrased it that way, and now I'm in kind of a minor depression. The Doors are eternal, and yet all of us are going to be just dust in the wind, and people don't forget in Kansas. But I mean, I think it's because a lot of it's of its time.
Yeah.
Stand up it's the same thing. I mean, another one of those things where it's like you go on the road, nobody's like, hey, do that bit you did.
Yeah.
Very rarely. For the most part, you have to write new stuff, which I've always resented because, right up there with my college theater cafeteria gym thing, my number 2 resentment is that you have to write new material, and bands get to play like 5 hits, you're set for life.
5 hits.
You don't play them, they get mad.
Yeah. If you have 5 hits, you will never need another thing again.
Yes.
I mean, most bands that you think of, you're like, oh, I like them. You probably can't make more than 5 songs.
That's right. You open with that one.
Yeah.
Then you do a couple of ones of your new shitty album. Then people start to get a little restless. You bring back another one that was kind of a hit. You're like, all right, good.
Have you seen this I'm Dying Up Here TV show?
I saw the pilots.
Yeah. I
saw 2 of them, I think.
Yeah. There's a tonality that's kind of missed there because I think people were working dirtier in 73 than they should have been. I think people started working a little more comfortably dirty in 77, 78, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
When 73, you were looking at David Brenner's career or something like that.
Right.
And again, here's a comedian. People have no idea how massive David Brenner was in the 70s.
Right.
Massive. On more TV shows than any actor.
Yeah.
But that kind of gets forgotten.
Yeah, I was wondering that when I had seen the pilot, because I couldn't, it's not a time period and a subject matter that gets covered a lot.
Right.
But I was like, there seems to be something tonally off, and I couldn't quite place it. And maybe that's what it was, that the comedy maybe wasn't that on the edge. There were a few people on the fringe who were,
and that's why they were. People were like, how does Carlin... In 73, they're like, how does he get to talk that way? By 78, 80, everybody knew how to talk that way.
Right.
And they forgot that, that Pryor and Carlin, they know he's great, but they didn't realize that they were able to do this at a time. Yeah. So I get into some of the stuff about comedy sometimes because it's so funny how quickly it gets picked up. Again, the first time Louis CK said that his kid was an asshole or whatever. I remember even being offended, like, oh, he's going to regret that when the kid grows up. Within 3 years, you would see people in chat shows or like a news anchor who goes, my kid's a jerk. You know
right.
Now that's a cute thing to say.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time he said, I go, why would he bring his kid into this?
Right.
That's dangerous.
She's going to resent him.
Yeah, the kid's going to hate him and probably end up in Oxyhead.
Right.
But as soon as anything is broken,
yeah,
it is, it would be hard for anyone to understand seeing, let's say, Sam Kinison in 83 and being shocked by it, or seeing Dice the first time Dice came out and be like, what is this? Yeah. Because so quickly it's just accepted and done by everybody.
Yes. Well, Sam Kinison especially was known for that. It wasn't just this primal; it was the primal scream. Yeah. I mean, it was so funny because it was like a nonverbal. It was a non-articulate, but he was just kind of letting out this scream that everybody was like, I do feel that way in the middle of the pleasant 80s.
Yeah.
And people were like, hey. And then suddenly this guy's like, bah! And you laughed because of the way he looked too. Yeah. You're like, this guy's allowed to scream and he's allowed to hate women.
Right.
And scream about his exes because look at him.
Right.
He hasn't had an easy road. If he'd been like this handsome guy, you'd be like, who's this? He's just an asshole. But it's like, look at him,
I always thought the funniest stuff with him is anytime he pulls it back. He goes from the scream and then the delivery. It's like sand. Yeah, this is sand. Anytime he got gentle was always my favorite thing.
Because you knew it was coming. Okay. All right. Fine. Even in Back to School, and he goes, he says that, Vietnam. Anybody else? That seems to be common wisdom. I don't agree with that because I was there.
Slugging it out with Charlie.
Right.
But even when Sam did that thing about, hey, why didn't the cameraman give him a sandwich? Well, first of all, it's funny because you're saying sandwich out of all the food. Right. But second, it was yes. Are you any kind of news photographer? You're taking pictures while Jack Kennedy's head's being blown off. What kind of fucking sociopath are you?
Right.
Yeah, especially the ones that involve children. Think about the amount of famous historical photographs. There's just a kid dying.
Kid falling.
What were you doing?
Yeah. Dropping from a building. You couldn't drop the camera and try to catch him.
Right. And it was so lovable because he'd start doing that person going, oh, help me. You just cut to the pain of it all.
And then, like we said, within a couple of years, so many other comics had added that. Yeah. That it just distills comedy immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
And same with Dice. Dice was doing the,
Dice, I'll never forget him telling me that but he worked on himself from the outside in. Every comedian thinks I need jokes. And Dice says I need to look good and make the audience look at me and respect me. And that blew my mind.
Yeah. I just feel like he had it was such a great character and he was so funny. I just feel like he never, it didn't get as ironic as it was. I feel like the irony was so thick. Right. I wasn't sure all the time that he understood to play that. I remember the classic, one of these, this is the epitome of that character. He goes, I'm behind this girl hammering away. And she goes, what you hurry? You got a bus to catch? No, you do. And because then he's sort of making fun of himself too. I guess it's not a great, but I'm just saying in retrospect. But I always thought it could have lasted a lot longer if he'd been more. Yeah. Because it was I don't know how you describe that character. It was, it was so broad.
What happened to Dice, I think, immediately his audience got nuts. No. And they got massive and people were like, what is this, Hitler Youth? You know what I mean?
No, by the way, the same thing happened to Kinison. Yeah. I knew Kinison decently back then, and I would go to these gigs. We were doing this MTV stuff in Daytona, and the crowd got in the way of his creativity, too. Right. Because they would be like, whoa, Sam. Yeah. We'd be like, whoa! And suddenly he couldn't do all those little subtle nuance things that you liked. Yeah. Because they were like, whoa! Screaming in the middle of him. So it took him out of his game, too. Yeah, and that's the same thing with Dice. It got so big that it takes them out of their game where they're trying to play, instead of going, wait a minute, this is not how it works. You know what I mean? But it's hard to do, especially then. Nobody's used to selling out stadium. You know what I mean? So
yeah, immediately it becomes, and that's why Steve Martin just said I just stopped because I didn't. that wasn't my point. You know, he did 2 tours and made the money. But then he goes, I don't know how to drive this anymore.
Right.
Instead of thinking, how can I make fun of everybody for liking me? Probably is what he
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has to have an element to that.
Yeah.
And people are like, hey, wait a minute.
Colin, thanks so much for stopping by, man. You are literally the best, buddy.
That was fast as hell.
Yes. Well, it was 6 minutes. So it might not have been as fast as you thought. Thanks to Kelly Lynch for being here, too. The name of that new TV show?
Mr. Mercedes. That's on DirecTV, 8 p.m. on...
that should be big.
Yeah.
Channel 239 this Wednesday.
And then Colin's
What's her website?
ColinQuinn.com.
Kelly, go to kellylynch.com. I'll be in Mr. Mercedes.
All right, that's it for us. See you again in 1974.